I am an engineer. I grew up in England. I live in California. I've worked in California for about 25 years. My kids laugh and say I'm a fake engineer. And I'll let you judge for yourselves. Here we go. So I think everybody in this audience knows that the last really, really big innovation in healthcare delivery came in 1948. And that was when an R.N. Bevan created the National Health Service. And the founding principle of this system is healthcare for everyone. And obviously not all countries in the world have this system, but it's pretty much widely agreed that universal care should be the goal. Very, very big challenges making that a reality around the world, and I'm going to define them as three things: access, value, and sustainability. So, access. I live in America. It's a big conversation there, and we mainly talk about uninsured people, and these are folks who typically access free care through emergency rooms. In Europe, it's a slightly different debate, but you talk about waiting lists, rationing of care for the elderly, access to the latest technology. And I read the Daily Mail, so I know all about the problems in the National Health Service. Now, I just am going to mention, I think these issues really are sideshows, because the alarming fact is that in a really global economy, the business of modern medicine excludes most of the world. Let's go to value. We talked a lot about how much money we spend on devices and pharmaceuticals. Let's just examine for a second how much value we get from these products. The world's most valuable medical device is for a product called a cardiac defibrillator. And globally, annually, that's about $7 billion. For every 100 people who get one of these devices, 7 get a therapeutic benefit. 7 in 100. The world's most valuable drug is something called Lipitor. In 2010, we spent $13.7 billion on this drug around the world. It saves one life for every 1,000 people who take it. Real value problems. Let's go to sustainability. Healthcare systems around the world are consuming vast amounts of our resources. So in the US, it's now close to 20%. It's now $2.2 billion to approve a novel molecular entity. And if you look at what this means to the industry in which I work, which is the pharmaceutical medical device industry, it's being crushed. So the earning multiples that we enjoy to value our companies have gone from 35, 10 years ago, to 9. These companies now trade like utilities, and investors basically do not believe there is a future in innovation in these industries. Now, I don't think they're right, but very, very big problems. And I sum up all of this together as affordability, and it's something that we have to address. So in our company, we have a view, and that is that people in healthcare, private, public, NGO, got to think about industries where we've overcome similar challenges, because it's been done other places, and build an industry that's capable of meeting global needs. Innovation can't be about rich people who only want the best. And innovation can't be about poor people in rich countries who want the best for free. Innovation needs to be about making high-quality, affordable healthcare available for everyone, and just to add to Mr. Bevan's goal, everywhere. So let's sort of do a bit of history here. In the last century, obviously the beginning of modern medicine, Bayer began selling aspirin in 1899. The health system we have today was designed to treat the problems of the last century. So it's acute, infectious disease that killed the young and adults in the prime of their life. It's polio, diphtheria, typhoid, tuberculosis. In 1899, life expectancy in the US was around 50. This has all changed. In the 20th century, death rates due to pneumonia, for example, have dropped by 90%. Bronchitis used to account for 3% of deaths in the US, it's now 0.1%. So enormous progress around this acute medical challenge. Today, we have very new health challenges. There are 7 billion people in the world. There'll be 9 billion by 2020. Every ethnicity is scattered across the globe, and we have very new health issues driven by what I'm going to describe as global health megatrends: aging, urbanization, and affluence. So life expectancy around the world is pretty consistent. It's between 75 and 80 years. It's 79 in the US, where we spend $8,000 a year for every man, woman, and child living in the country on healthcare. It's 79 in Europe, where it's about $3,500 a head. It's 75 in China, where the spend right now is $94 a head. Let's go to urbanization and affluence. The global pandemics that we face today are diabetes, dementia, and depression. These are chronic diseases. They're massively influenced by personal lifestyle choices. They're not well suited to cost-effective treatment in capital-intensive sick care systems, which is what we've built, especially when those sick care systems are staffed by scarce, high-cost professionals. So this map is type 2 diabetes. It's the world's costliest, largest epidemic. 320 million people already in the world with type 2 diabetes. It's consuming 25% of our global resources. Based on current trends, by 2020, 1 billion people, close to 10% of the world's population, will have this kind of condition. And this will have potentially catastrophic consequences for our finances as well as our well-being. Now, about the only thing that is proliferating faster than chronic disease is the use of mobile technology. So around 5 billion people in the world today have a mobile device. So this map just shows where you can make a phone call. Now, or text, or access the internet. Interesting, most of the people who own one of these devices make less than $10 a day. Most of them have never and will never see a doctor in their lives. Now, we all know this. But I'm just going to suggest to you, if a cell phone was a medical product, it might cost $10,000. And it might work 10% of the time. And the Harvard School of Public Health would have done a study to say that that's jolly good value. Now, folks in technology have laid out an unbelievably successful pathway for innovation in the 21st century, and I'm going to call this communication for everyone, everywhere. And in healthcare, we should pay attention. Most basic idea, this industry has defined innovation as more functional and more affordable. So every year, you get more for your money. Sounds obvious. But in healthcare, we've defined innovation as more functional and more expensive. So every year, you get less for your money. And the technology has a business strategy that achieves this goal. Consumerize. So it's a cell phone, not a workstation. Systematize. Hardware, software, connectivity, security in one seamless package that all works together. Globalize. 7 billion people and 70% of the world's population have access. Take that, lay it on healthcare. Consumerize. Nope. We sell to payers and we sell to doctors. Systematize. Drugs, devices, services sold in many separate packages that don't work together unless you can figure it out for yourself. Globalize. There's 7 billion people and 70% of the world's population do not have access. So maybe we can learn something from this industry. Folks who have cell phones don't just talk and text. They have access to all kinds of phenomenally sophisticated tools to manage their lives. They can shop, they can gather media and entertainment, they can find information, they can manage their finances. Quick check. How many people here use one of these services? Okay. Billions of people around the world use these services or something like them. Now, how many people here use Facebook? Oh, that's pretty good. That's good. How many people here have children? Everybody should be using Facebook because this is how your kids communicate, right? It's not phone, it's not text. They Facebook each other. Facebook now has 900 million users. In 2010, folks spent about 140 billion hours using Facebook. Most of that was by people over the age of 70. More over the age of 70 than under the age of 17. Just to do compare and contrast in healthcare. About 5 billion hours spent seeing the doctor. A lot less. And by the way, most of those hours were also people over the age of 70, not under the age of 17. So there's a parallel there. By 2012, Facebook will be the largest country in the world. It will have more people than China. It's part of an enormous category that is redefining our economy, and this is called social media. It's huge, and it's a positive force to help us live better, more productive, less wasteful lives. So I'm going to give you a quick tour here in case you don't know some of these sites. Facebook is a site where you share and you communicate with your friends. Twitter is a place where you give people immediate information in short bursts. Quora is a place where you ask questions and they're crowdsourced and you get the answer. Foursquare is a location-based networking site so you can find what you need close to where you are. YouTube is a place where you share your favorite videos. Groupon is a local deals site where you can get discounts on things you want to buy. And Proteus, which is our company, is a wellness platform that allows you to manage your family's health. So, if I put that into simple terms, Facebook would be I feel sick. Twitter would be I am sick. Quora would be why am I sick? Foursquare would be where can I be sick? YouTube would be what's going to be sick? Google Groups is my sick circle. Groupon is... So, there's a whole new world out there. Okay. This is a phenomenal global thing. It's just taking off at a very high rate. So this map now shows global internet access and penetration by region. It's growing very, very fast. In markets outside the US, access to the internet is a smartphone. So smartphone and tablet shipments now, just on their own, exceed PC shipments. It's an enormous trend. Now, I can hear some people here thinking, oh, these things are expensive. They can be. That's okay. But over 100 million Androids have shipped in the first 6 months. That doesn't count iPods, iPhones, Samsungs, all kinds of things. And this is a platform that delivers paid services and content. So the trend here, with one exception, which is Apple, is for hardware manufacturers to sell these units at or below cost, because you make money off the user when they buy and sell services. So, does this have anything to do with healthcare? Well, I hope so. Let's go to drugs. Global pharmaceutical industry is approximately $750 billion. That's big. It's twice the size of global semiconductors, and it's a very cost-effective way of treating disease. But what we know is most people who are on medicines don't take them properly, and in much of the world, most of the medicines in the supply chain are fake. So we have drugs with immense therapeutic potential. We're spending about $200 billion a year to try and expand this, but what we have already works very well. And the real problems that we need to solve are information. Is the drug real? Is it the right dose? How do I use it? Can somebody help me use it? And social connectivity. Can my family, my pharmacist, my physician help me stay on track? Can they help me adjust my meds, titrate them? And can they help me improve my choices? Is there a set of tools, maybe out there, that could help me solve this information and social connectivity problem? Well, I think there is. I think I just showed it to you. So I'm going to give you one example of a technology. This happens to be a technology that we're working on, but there'll be others, that links this type of therapeutic potential to social media. So imagine a digital medicine that connects and enables you to verify your medicine is real, not fake, monitor exactly when you take it, measure how your drug is working, educate you about your disease and your health, advise you if you may need a different dose, track your wellness like your sleep and your exercise, alert family members if you're not doing well, empower your family and friends to help, reward you for following a prescription, entertain you with games that promote health, motivate you to stay well. And that kind of product could sell for less than a patented medicine. This is how we do it. We have thousands of days of patient experience with this particular invention, so this is a bit of engineering here. We've done it in heart failure, hypertension, mental health, diabetes, tuberculosis. Essentially, it's the medicines you already take combined with a computer chip that's made from food or food ingredients. There's nothing in this device that you wouldn't find in your diet, and it's in minute quantities. It's well below what you'd find in a multivitamin. This pill turns on when you swallow it, and it communicates through your body. It's totally unique. There's no battery, there's no radio, there's no antenna, and it costs almost nothing. What we're doing is to give actually each pill a digital heartbeat. It communicates with a smart plaster or a Band-Aid that you wear. It's like a little device you put on your torso, and it's designed to be worn for 7 days. It measures your heart rate, your respiration, your body angle, your activity, your temperature, your sleep, what we call Sentinels of Wellness. If you get within 30 feet of a phone, your phone, that is, the data is encrypted, downloaded, sent to us, we process it, and we send back an application to you in a social media application we call Health Tiles. So you get a summary, you get details over time, helps you understand the interaction between you, your behaviors, your health outcomes, and you can share it automatically with someone who you think could help you. That might be your mother, your brother, your son, your daughter, might be your doctor. But if you're a family and you're caring for someone with heart failure or Alzheimer's or diabetes or bipolar disease, you get this very, very quickly. So when we show this to families actually help us design this, they understand it very well. What we're showcasing is the marriage of proven medicines with proven communication and social media technologies, so we personalize therapy and make it work for you, where you live, in a way you can see and measure at a price you can afford to pay. Families love this. So TB patients say, for example, this gives me dignity. Heart failure patients say, it makes me feel safe. Bipolar patients say, gave me my mum and dad back. So this has all been reviewed by the EMA and the FDA. First products will launch in the UK in 293 days. So it's coming to a pharmacy near you soon. I'm going to dwell for a minute here on social media and changing behavior, because this is a big issue. People say, oh, well, you can't do that. Changing behavior, that's really hard. So we work with a lot of pharmaceutical companies, and so we went to an executive team who'd expressed a lot of doubt about changing behavior, and we asked them to play a game called the Power Challenge. And we said, just by monitoring, we're going to find out who's the most powerful person in your company. And we said, well, these guys all said, we're far too busy to play games. We don't play games. We're executives. Okay, we'll just monitor you. We'll find out what's going on. So they got 2,000 points for keeping their heart rate over 120 for 10 minutes, 20,000 for the highest heart rate delta. They got 1 point for every step. They got some points for taking their power pill within 30 minutes of prescription, and 1,000 points for each hour of uninterrupted sleep. And they got bonuses if they did what we told them to do, a little intervention on their power phone. They had a leaderboard, and they could check on what was going on. There were special buttons so they could see their rankings. And these were busy executives, so they were far too busy to check on their status more than once every 30 minutes. And so to put this in perspective, this is 20 guys, top leadership team of a $100 billion company at an offsite. The winner in the Weekend Warrior category ran 46 miles during this meeting. Not normal behavior. The From the Heart winner kept his heart rate above 120 for 7.3 hours continuously, and the greatest heart rate delta was 138, which we thought was dangerous, but it was a closely competed category where they were all trash-talking each other in their little chat room, which they were allowed to use. Our patient took all of his meds within 2.7 minutes of the prescribed time, including 2 a.m. doses. Set his alarm clock. And the recovery zone winner got 7 hours of restful sleep every night, but did not win any other category. Now, the final piece of this is at 9:15 on the Monday morning, these guys were all in a meeting, and we sent them a text that said they could get 10,000 points if they took a rest and lay down horizontal. 7 of these people in a meeting lay on the carpet. Now, you can imagine, this is a group that had fun being monitored for compliance, but they also now understand the incredible power of feedback, social media, personal data, game dynamics, and incentives in health. So, this is the product that will come out in 2012. It's called Helios. It's a digital information service for folks managing complex polypharmacy who are struggling to stay well and at home. And what we're doing is to add a digital tablet to existing compliance packaging to mark the use of ingested medicines. And we use the wearable device to create essentially a ribbon, which is activities of daily life. So this is a couple of screenshots from this product. This has been designed doing intense consumer-centric ethnography in the UK. But basically the idea here is you have a simple rhythm that can be used by patients, families, professional carers, just to keep things stable. This is a group of people that just want normal. At least that's what we think, and that's what they tell us. So it can be customized, so you can see activity, you can see meds, but you can put in nudges. So if mum hasn't gotten up, you can get a nudge. You can remind mum to take her meds. You can engage the whole family in an exercise plan. Very much created with the users at the center of how this was designed. It's rich. It will add features over time. We can add, for example, personal emergency response to this. And it's a precursor to fully integrated digital drugs, which will come in 2013, with diabetes being the first. So, some specifics. Now let's go back to global. There's a lot of activity in this space. There's going to be many health companies pioneering an innovation paradigm in healthcare that creates enormous new potential, because the internet today is the world's most valuable and important utility. Reaches 6 billion people. It's more available than water or electricity. Billions of people use the internet regularly, and hundreds of millions of these people are caring for someone who's sick. That's the largest group of healthcare workers in the world. Right? So for us, the question is, how do you plug into this very, very large group of people who are doing most of the work? And for us, the idea is the drug is the plug. But the opportunity for everybody now is to think about how you marry medicine in its very broadest sense with mobile communications and social media. And in the UK, just to make this specific, there just may be more leverage empowering, informing, motivating, and rewarding 10 million informal caregivers than imposing more regulations on 1 million people who work professionally so they can deliver more care with less resources. We think we have the opportunity to completely redefine healthcare and healthcare delivery. We have an acute care system that's based on buildings, people, and products. It's a very good system. It's done a very good job. But the chronic care delivery system of the 21st century we build to complement this platform will be based on mobile phones, software, and services. It should be much more personal, much less expensive for the purpose it's designed to achieve, and huge amounts of medicine will be enabled to take place in the community. People will be managing their own health in the workplace, in the shopping center, at home, and patients are right at the center of this kind of system because they're sharing information and decision-making, and they have the tools, the rewards, the recognition they need to manage their own care. So I'm going to go back to the town that I grew up in. This is Colchester, this is Head Street, and this building is the post office. Wait a minute, it's not the post office. It's a mini Odeon cinema and a coffee shop. What happened to the great big Odeon cinema? And where is the post office? This is the post office. And it's about 1/5 the size of the old one. This is the hospital, and it's about 3 times the size of the old one, and everybody says it needs to get bigger already, maybe twice as big. Okay, so we can all see lots of change in our lives, and the point I'm making here about these buildings is that when it comes to mail, we all send emails. Our kids Facebook and tweet, don't send letters. When it comes to media, we all download movies. We don't go to the cinema anymore. When it comes to markets, we all shop online. Medicine has to be next to move into the digital age because we have the tools and technology. I think this should be one of the most important parts of Department of Health and NHS policy, and most importantly, that innovations in this sphere should focus on consumers and empowering consumers to take care of their own lives, not on professionals. And what I've shown you is one way to deliver a medicine combined with the information, education, and motivation needed to care for yourself. Maybe it'll make a contribution. But for sure, there will be many, many other game-changing ideas that come from the world of social media and mobile communications. And it is our view that it is these innovations that will enable us to continue to provide healthcare for everyone in this country, not go bust by 2020. But if we're really bold, then we can provide healthcare for everyone, everywhere. Thank you.
Well, that is a vision of a new world. There's no doubt about that at all. Questions or comments? Yes.
Ross Sethier from Imperial College London. Very interesting presentation. One of the features that struck me was that, at least in the paradigm that you outlined to us, it was pharma-centric in the sense that there's a tablet that you have to take that has the chip in it. Can you say a little bit about how you would roll this out for situations in which you weren't ingesting a tablet of some sort, please?
Sure. So this is a really important question that we really thought about a lot. When you think about how you create digital disruption, meaning you move from buildings, people, products to software, services, mobile phones, you have to figure out what is an engagement transaction that consumers relate to that will persuade them not to go to the building but go to their phone and use software. So, for example, in financial services, it's paying a bill. I don't go to the bank, see the teller, pay the bill. I go to my phone, download the software, pay the bill. Right? So one of the analytics that we think is really important is that the way in which most people meet the healthcare system in their own lives with an engagement transaction is through a medicine. It's something that happens hundreds of millions of times a day. So that's the place to start. That's where people begin a journey. Now, in fact, you can, as you I think have figured out here, you can use a system like this beautifully and not need a medicine. Right? So if you, for example, were a type 2 diabetic and you started using the system and you managed to understand the interaction between your metformin, your blood glucose, and your exercise, and you decided you wanted to get off metformin and increase your exercise, reduce your weight, and that would be terrific, and then you could keep using this system. Right? Now, one area of experimentation that we've been engaged with, which has shown us to be, it's a really interesting area. We talked about randomized clinical trials. We do RCTs in the pharma industry because we know there is a massive placebo effect. Massive. So some of the small studies that we've been doing are with folks who don't, as they progress, need medicines, but who sometimes want a little bit of help. And what they get to take is a willpower pill. Right? And they can take as many as they think they need. And of course, they're sugar pills, right? But what we have shown in small studies is that people taking willpower pills have more willpower. It's called a placebo effect, right? So there's lots of very interesting things you can do with these kinds of systems because swallowing something has a huge psychological effect on a patient.
It struck me listening to Roger Altwood just now that a lot of this is imagination. I mean, you were using essentially imagination to say, well, what is it that old people with dementia might need? Trying to sort of put yourselves in their positions and perceiving their problems. And what you're doing is the same kind of thing here. You're taking an existing technology and saying, here we've got a technology, how can we use it to tackle medical problems? And the exercise of the imagination to try and see how it can be used. But imagination is one of the hardest things to exercise, isn't it? Because most people are sort of hidebound by what they're familiar with. You have to step right outside that and see new ways of doing things.
Yeah, so I want to be careful about it. So one of the things that's really important to understand here is that one of the beautiful things about a sort of centrally funded health system is that it works well and does the things that it was designed to do well. It doesn't innovate very easily because you have essentially a centrally funded production function where the money goes to produce the thing that it's, right, so it keeps going. So a huge part of how we've managed to create this idea and these products is by actually going into the homes and lives of people who are sick. It's a very novel idea, right? So when you work with a pharma company, they don't do any user-centric consumer ethnography. So for example, for diabetes, one of the largest categories both in this country and in the US is truckers. And we've had teams of people who've literally gone and lived with truckers for weeks to see what their lives look like and what it means to be diabetic when you're 50 and overweight and faced with Twinkies and Hostess cakes, and right? That's how we designed the product for a diabetic. And so actually, if you do it that way, I don't think we want to claim too much credit for imagination. We can see by going into people's homes in this country how many older people are interacting with the internet. They're using many social media tools. And so then we can start to see what do they want. We learned a lot, for example, just doing focus groups in the UK about how older people in their homes don't want competitions and they don't want trends, they just want normal. Normal's the big thing, right? So some of this is about the design process you use. And how many people here have heard of a design firm called IDEO? So IDEO is one of the leading global design firms, and they're all over the US, but they basically specialize in what's called human-centered design, where you start with the patient or the consumer and you work back out. And that's not a design technique that's so often used in healthcare.
Yes.
Thank you. As a Homo sapiens, I have control of my bank account and taxation affairs, but I don't have control of my health, because this patronizing health system has all the information right back to my smallpox vaccination. So how do we actually get people to take control of their health with these systems and wrest the control of their health away from the system? We have GPs who are gatekeepers. We have hospitals that lose your notes and shuffle. You know, the NHS is swamped in its ability to try and retain this information.
So, very important point. Please note, what I just showed you is an over-the-counter consumer product. It's an over-the-counter consumer product. It is for the consumer and their family. Now, if the doctor says he wants to see the data and he'd like to know, for example, who in his panel is actually taking their medicines or who's having trouble, he can ask to see that data, and if the patient is willing to share it, they can share it. Same with the pharmacist. But what's critical about everything we're doing here is that this is not about empowering the professionals in the system necessarily. It will, potentially, but it's first and foremost about empowering the consumer. I'll use an analogy for you here. If you think about digital media and how it works in other sectors, you don't take technology and make it easier for shop assistants to pick out the product you want to buy in the store. You take the technology so you can download it to your phone, buy it online, you don't need to go to the store, and you don't need the shop assistant. Right? Same thing here, because the trick is not that we want to get rid of the National Health Service. We need it, and we especially need it for acute care medicine. But it cannot cope with the management of chronic disease. Patients and families have to do it themselves. They already are doing it. If you sit down and talk to families who've got a bipolar patient or an Alzheimer's, they're already doing tons of work. So the idea is to give them the tools, the recognition, rewards, motivation to do it and do it better. So it's all about the patient and the consumer, not the NHS, first.
One more question? Yep.
Sue Dankton, Health Tech and Medicines, KTN. I had the pleasure of meeting you in San Francisco earlier this year, actually.
Thanks.
What we're talking about here is obviously a paradigm shift in delivery of healthcare. But where do you get to the stage when, who drives the market here? Because you're obviously having to do some push to start with, but is it going to be the big pharma that are going to help to drive that to the consumer, or can you see the consumer getting to the stage where they are demanding this type of technology?
I think it's a bit of mix, right? I do not think this is about pharmaceutical industry pushing something on consumers, I have to say. Global pharma has a reputation that's right up there with Goldman Sachs. And so I don't think that's going to do it, right? I think actually retail pharmacy is going to be important. And I think that, as you know, retail pharmacy chains in the UK have very trusted brands. So Lloyd's, Boots, and like they're very trusted, right? So I think pharmacy is actually a very interesting place to go to build relationships with consumers. And pharmacy chains not only have a real need to figure out how their future is going to unfold, because they've got a lot of real estate and fewer people entering it, but they have the instincts around how to build consumer-facing products that will serve them well. Pharma companies just don't. Pharma companies don't sell to consumers, they sell to payers, and they sell to doctors, and they struggle to realize that there actually is somebody using the medicine at the end of the line. And if you talk to a drug company about adherence or compliance, it's always because the patient is an idiot. Can you believe it? These people don't take our drugs. I mean, how stupid are they? Now, I'll tell you one thing that I have banned in our company is the term idiot-proof, because the problem with that term is it implies that the wrong person is the idiot, right? Not a good business practice to say that your customers are idiots. They're not. They're people, right? So you have to flip it. So we think consumer pharmacy is a very good place to go.
That's a good thought to take over coffee. It is now a coffee break. Thank you very much, Andrew. And if we can be back here in 20